The truth you are about to hear was buried for over a century by the most powerful institutions in the world. Every textbook, every official history you learned in school is about to be rewritten right now. For decades, they dismissed it as a wild hoax, a fantasy of yellow journalism, a convenient lie. But what if the legend of a lost city, deep inside the Grand Canyon, was terrifyingly real? A sprawling subterranean citadel, carved by unknown hands, preserving the remains of giants. The government denies it exists, but the original documents, the names, the coordinates, are all here. Prepare to confront a hidden history that challenges everything you believe about North America's past. Hit that subscribe button now and turn on notifications, because the powerful forces that silence this story don't want you to see what comes next. And as we begin this journey into the darkness, comment below. It's real if you believe our history books are hiding secrets. The year was 1909, and the world was focused on the brink of a new century. But a single explosive headline in the Arizona Gazette threatened to shatter the established timeline of human civilization forever. Explorer G.E. Kincaid, a lone prospector navigating the treacherous currents of the Colorado River, claimed to have stumbled upon an anomaly so profound it defied immediate comprehension. A massive, man-made cave entrance, towering over 2,000 feet above the churning river, completely concealed from the rim above. It wasn't a natural fissure in the rock, but a meticulously carved portal leading into the heart of the Great Canyon itself. A secret sealed for millennia, and only revealed by the subtle, almost imperceptible signs of ancient stonework weathering the intense desert elements. This was the first seismic crack in the official story of the Grand Canyon's isolation. Kincaid's initial descent into the cavern wasn't just an exploration. It was a sensory plunge into an atmosphere thick with the dust of ages and the silence of a forgotten empire. He followed hundreds of carefully carved steps winding up the sheer cliff face, a feat of engineering that suggested incredible purpose and resourcefulness from its builders. The entrance he finally reached was circular, perfectly shaped, giving way to a central corridor 12 feet wide, meticulously hewn from the solid red rock running straight and true like a modern highway. The air inside, though stale and cool, held the faint metallic scent of copper and something else, something ancient and strangely preserved, that clung to the explorer's clothes and skin, a tangible echo of the people who had walked those halls. The explorer, whose story was quickly picked up and reportedly funded by an expedition supposedly led by Professor S.A. Jordan of the Smithsonian Institution, detailed a labyrinthine underground citadel designed to house not hundreds, but an estimated 50,000 people. The sheer scale was breathtaking. Huge cross halls stretching for hundreds of feet, branching off into smaller chambers, each chamber approximately 30 by 40 feet, with arched ceilings converging to a central point like an inverted pyramid. These were not mere shelters. They were architectural masterpieces, built with a knowledge of rock mechanics that modern engineers would envy, perfectly ventilated by small, round air shafts channeled through the 3-foot-thick walls, demonstrating a command over subterranean construction that should not have existed on the North American continent so many thousands of years ago. The immediate and most startling discoveries were not the halls themselves, but the objects they contained, defying every known paradigm of North American archaeology. Kincaid and the alleged Smithsonian team described finding vast granaries still stocked with seeds, stored in beautifully glazed pottery, that was completely alien to the region, indicating a settled, advanced agricultural society. The team found evidence of industrial-scale metalwork, with copper tools of all descriptions strewn about a workshop area, alongside slag and charcoal. This was the most critical detail. Kincaid claimed the copper tools showed signs of a lost art of hardening the metal, a process that would have made these ancient people technologically superior to any contemporary civilization in the Americas, forcing a complete re-evaluation of global industrial history. This metalworking evidence, coupled with the sophisticated engineering, pointed towards a civilization of staggering complexity and resourcefulness, a people who had not merely existed, but had thrived beneath the monumental indifference of the Grand Canyon. The silence of the abandoned city was not the quiet of a ruin, but the heavy hush of a great power deliberately vacated, leaving behind the ghosts of their sophisticated lives. The mystery deepened as they moved through the enormous complex, realizing that every inch of the subterranean city, from the perfectly rounded doorways to the seamless stone floors, had been deliberately and painstakingly shaped by a colossal workforce utilizing tools we still struggle to reproduce today. But the real mystery, the chilling core of the entire account that lends credence to the idea of giants, lay deep within a large crypt chamber, where the narrative of a simple, ancient civilization abruptly took a turn toward the mythic. Here, in the deepest, quietest part of the complex, row upon row of carved shelves held dozens of mummies, all male, wrapped in a dark bark fabric and covered in a thick clay. A burial rite utterly foreign to the Native American cultures of the Southwest. More ominously, the explorer's notes suggest these were not men of average height, leading to the legend of the giants, an interpretation supported by similar claims of colossal remains found across the North American continent, implying a lost race of towering individuals. The search for the true identity of these people led the alleged Professor Jordan and Kincaid to the Central Cross Hall, a place of worship and contemplation where they found a carved idol, a large, cross-legged figure, holding a lotus flower in each hand, its face bearing a distinctly oriental cast, almost resembling a Buddha. This unexpected discovery, combined with the presence of hieroglyphs on the walls and doorways, led the Gazette to conclude that the builders were of Oriental origin, possibly from Egypt, tracing back to Ramses. The conflicting cultural signals, Egyptian hieroglyphs alongside a Buddha-like statue, painted a picture of a melting pot civilization, a global port of entry hidden beneath the US desert. This fusion of symbols, Egyptian carvings, Oriental statues, and the enormous size of the mummies, is what made the Kincaid discovery too dangerous for the mainstream world to accept, becoming the crucial third pillar of the overall legend. If confirmed, it would prove that transoceanic travel and cultural exchange occurred on a massive scale thousands of years before Columbus, completely dismantling the established historical narrative. The fact that the mummies were exclusively male further added to the enigma. Were they priests, soldiers, or a specialized group tasked with the maintenance or protection of this immense subterranean city? Perhaps a military garrison of giants from an Atlantean or Proto-Egyptian empire? The implications were, and remain, staggering. The fate of the expedition and its incredible findings leads directly to the core of the contemporary controversy, the Smithsonian cover-up. The Arizona Gazette article claimed that the Smithsonian Institution was financing the project and had already sent 30 archaeologists to the site to recover and study the massive trove of artifacts. Yet, almost immediately after the sensational article, all official trace of Kincaid, Professor Jordan, and the expedition vanished into the desert air, disappearing as completely as the ancient civilization itself. The Smithsonian, the very institution credited with the discovery, has since repeatedly and categorically denied any knowledge of the individuals or the project, dismissing the whole event as a case of early 20th century yellow journalism, a complete and utter hoax designed solely to sell newspapers to a gullible public. But the sheer level of detail in Kincaid's report, describing specific wall thicknesses, ventilation systems, and complex metallurgy, far exceeds the typical exaggerations of a simple newspaper fabrication. The skeptics point to the lack of photographic evidence and the conveniently non-existent records, but the believers argue that the very thoroughness of the official denial, the absolute silence from Washington, is itself the proof of suppression. This location, near the confluence of the Colorado and Little Colorado rivers, is today part of a strictly controlled, forbidden zone of the Grand Canyon National Park. It is an area where access is heavily restricted, and the official justification for this restriction, protecting cultural sites or endangered species, does little to silence the whispers of those who believe the government is guarding the entrance to Kincaid's cave. This leads us to the most persistent modern theory, that the cave was not empty, nor was the story a hoax, but the discovery was simply too monumental for its time, or too disruptive to the power structure of academic history. To admit that a non-native, technologically advanced civilization existed in the Grand Canyon millennia ago, potentially one with links to the Old World, would necessitate rewriting not just American history, but global human migration and development. The official version of events requires that Kincaid and Jordan be pure fabrications. Yet the detailed descriptions of the cave layout and artifacts have been confirmed by independent researchers, who claim to have used the article's clues to locate the general area, only to be turned away by the visible presence of park authorities, and, some claim, military patrols. The area is also dotted with landmarks bearing distinctly Egyptian names, such as the Isis Temple, Horus Temple, and Osiris Temple, named by early explorers like John Wesley Powell. While officials attribute these names to the explorers' fondness for global mythologies, the fact that these specific names are concentrated near the alleged site of the Egyptian find only fuels the enduring conspiracy theory. It suggests a subtle, almost secret acknowledgement of the truth by those early government men who explored the canyon and perhaps knew more than they ever disclosed publicly. These sandstone temples, sculpted by the wind and the river, stand as silent, monumental sentinels over the truth hidden deep beneath their foundations, a testament to a hidden civilization. Imagine the sight, a city carved from the earth itself, lit by an unknown pale green light, as reported in other similar lost city legends from the southwest, housing mummified remains up to 8 or 9 feet tall, the silent, imposing figures of a bygone race of men. These are the giants of Native American legends too. The Paiutes and other tribes have oral traditions speaking of a tall, red-haired, and often aggressive race of ancient inhabitants they fought and eventually drove out or defeated. The Kincaid account, whether fabricated or factual, powerfully intersects with these ancient indigenous narratives, giving the tale a deep cultural resonance that cannot be easily dismissed as mere fiction or sensationalism. The official narrative tells us that only the ancestral Puebloans and other Native American tribes inhabited the canyon, and archaeological finds confirm a rich history spanning over 12,000 years, including incredible examples of their craftsmanship like split-twig animal figurines. But proponents of the hidden city theory argue that the Grand Canyon is simply too vast, with over 1,000 unexplored caves, to confidently say nothing else is hidden. The sheer, terrifying scale of the canyon is a physical barrier that works in favor of secrets. What you can't see, you can't officially deny, leaving the door wide open for the possibility that the most unbelievable story of 1909 is also the single most suppressed archaeological discovery of all time. The most recent inquiries, including attempts by independent documentary makers and explorers to petition for access to the restricted zone, have met with firm bureaucratic resistance, reinforcing the conviction among researchers that the site is still being actively monitored and protected from public scrutiny. It's not the denial of evidence that convinces the believers, but the iron curtain of government secrecy drawn around a remote, seemingly insignificant part of the national park, an action completely disproportionate to a simple, century-old newspaper hoax. The lingering questions: who were these giants? How did they master such advanced metalwork? And why were their bodies preserved with Egyptian-like rites? Continue to chip away at the official wall of silence. The discovery, if real, forces us to consider a world where the continents were linked not by chance, but by design, where the history of technology is drastically older than we believe, and where a race of giants walked the earth, only to be deliberately scrubbed from the historical record. The very thought ignites the imagination, painting a picture of an immense, cavernous sanctuary filled with relics of a golden age, waiting patiently in the echoing silence of the Arizona bedrock. The dust of the ages settles over a truth that is seemingly too grand, too world-altering to be allowed to breathe in the light of day. This hidden metropolis, carved from the very fabric of the earth, represents the biggest missing piece in the puzzle of ancient North America, and its alleged contents, the golden urns, the copper tablets, the hieroglyphic keys, remain the ultimate prize for researchers battling the monolithic authority of the academic establishment. The fact that the story persists and grows stronger with every passing decade, fueled by the official denials and the impenetrable military guard around the rumored site, only proves its power. It is a modern myth that carries the undeniable weight of a buried truth, suggesting that the giants, the technology, and the ancient connections are simply waiting for the moment when the official narrative finally breaks. The explorer Kincaid, whether a real person or a narrative device, described a civilization whose reach extended across oceans and whose ambition extended into the heart of the world's deepest canyon, creating a sanctuary of immense scale and sophistication. His tale speaks of a lost culture that mastered metallurgy, centuries before the Bronze Age should have been possible in this hemisphere. A people whose religious iconography married the Orient and the Nile. This fusion of cultural elements, from the seemingly Egyptian script to the Buddhist-like deity, suggests an advanced cosmopolitan culture. A true global crossroads hidden thousands of feet beneath the desert sun, far from any recognized shipping lane or established trade route. Consider the immense energy and purpose required to carve an underground city to house 50,000 people, a population size comparable to some of the largest cities in the United States at the time of the Gazette publication. This wasn't an ad hoc mining operation or a small ceremonial cave. It was a deliberate, generational undertaking, a permanent, self-sufficient citadel designed to withstand millennia, suggesting a fear of surface cataclysm or a retreat from a dying world. The logistical nightmare of such a project, using the so-called hardened copper tools that Kincaid mentioned, suggests that the technological secret was in the material science of the age, a lost formula for creating tools of superhuman strength that enabled the giants to literally sculpt the earth. The persistence of the Forbidden Zone theory, the existence of a specific, restricted area near the Marble Canyon where the river meets the Little Colorado, is perhaps the most compelling modern update to the 1909 story. While the National Park Service cites the need to protect the Hopi salt mines and other cultural sites, the alignment of these restricted coordinates with the vague location given in the original article keeps the flame of the conspiracy alive. Why the need for such stringent, heavily enforced perimeter control if the story is just a colorful piece of early 20th century fiction, a quaint historical footnote? Today, adventurers and historians continue to use the cryptic map coordinates and textual clues left behind in the Kincaid article, studying the geological formations and the telltale signs of Isis Temple and Horus Temple towering over the alleged entrance. They are searching for the chiseled steps described by Kincaid, the faint scorch marks of the ancient forges, the physical proof of a hidden history. Every new seismic survey, every new drone flyover of the restricted airspace, and every new piece of FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, research only deepens the conviction that the Grand Canyon is not just a geological wonder, but a massive natural vault containing the most explosive secret in human history. The story is a powerful blend of fact, myth, and conspiracy, anchored by a genuine historical document, the 1909 newspaper article. The fact that an entire city, complete with artifacts, mummies, and hieroglyphs, could be claimed to have been found, then immediately disappear from the collective memory, only to be guarded by a shadowy government effort, is the perfect recipe for an enduring mystery. It forces us to ask, what knowledge did the giants possess that our modern world still fears? What truth about human origins is so fundamentally destabilizing that it requires a century-long, total media blackout? The answer, for those who truly believe the title of this video, lies literally carved in stone, thousands of feet above the raging water and thousands of feet below the tourist trails. It is the narrative of a massive civilization, a race of giants who mastered the earth and vanished, leaving behind only the echo of their grand design, meticulously preserved in the dry, silent air of the Grand Canyon's secret caves. This subterranean labyrinth remains a symbol of all that we are taught to ignore, a monumental challenge to the limited vision of history imposed by official gatekeepers who choose convenience over the absolute, transformative truth. The very stone of the canyon, which took billions of years to form, now hides a secret that only a few thousand years could create. The massive scale of the natural wonder is a fitting backdrop for the massive scale of the secret it conceals. The colossal remains of a forgotten people, a legacy of giants whose existence would forever change our understanding of ancient America. We are not alone in our curiosity, and every day, more people challenge the official story, demanding that the doors to the Isis Temple cave be opened, and the truth of the lost city of giants finally be revealed to a world that is ready to learn its real history.